Hey everyone, Pippy here, and I'm back from the Lost Expedition where I got poisoned, but I'm all better and ready to see what my next adventure will be. And from the looks of it, I think it's a little town with so many adorable little creatures, like a rabbit, porcupine, raccoon, fox, and squirrel, and they seem to be making comforts before winter gets here. Maybe if I help them, they can help me get back home. It's worth a shot, so let's go and start helping. The first thing I'm going to do is flip over the traveler's card and the season cards. The traveler's cards are just that, visitors to the town to help make the comforts, and the season cards tell us what are available to collect, which for these spring cards are wood, mushrooms, apples, yarn, and coin. The traveler is the snapping turtle, and he lets us take 2 extra learned lessons for every unresolved worker. Next, I roll the dice to see where my workers can go. And I got a 6 and a 4. So let's see where I can go and what I can collect. The first place we'll go is the river, where we can collect 1 coin and 1 stone. After that is the market, where you can trade 1 coin in for 1 good, 2 matching goods for any good, or any 3 goods in for 1 coin. We'll also need apples. I've changed my mind about the market. I want wood and mushrooms instead. And for my last worker, I think my last worker will go to the inn and see Mr. Snapping Turtle. What we get from him will depend on the number die that I put there. And I've rolled the village die and got 3 5s and a 3. So let's see what things I can collect. The apples need 2 dice of the same number, which I have. The river needs a 5 to collect, and I'll put a 6 on the end, which will allow me to turn 1 coin in for 1 story. So I will take back my worker from the river, and I will collect my 1 coin and 1 stone, and then I will grab my 2 apples and take my worker back from there. And I wasn't able to get the wood and the mushroom. Then I'll go to the inn, and I'll trade my 1 coin for 1 story. And I'll take my worker back from there. I wasn't able to use my 4 die or the 3 village die. Unfortunately, not all my workers were able to collect things. That's okay, though, because for every worker I didn't use, I'll get a lesson learned. Plus, for this month, I also get 2 extra lesson learned because of the visitor. The lesson learned is used to modify a die's value. After bringing all my workers and colored family dice back, I start setting up for the next month. In the owl's nest, the leftmost comfort is discarded and the other comforts are shifted over. A new comfort is then flipped over. The same holds true for the workshop. The bottom improvement is discarded and the rest shift down and a new one is flipped over. The village dice is taken off the hilltop and the dial for the river is turned 1 notch clockwise. The top forest and meadow cards are also discarded, and the traveler goes back to his village so that a new one can come visit. So that's it. That's all I have to do to help for the next few months until winter comes. And I bet you're thinking, but Pippy, what comforts are you trying to make? You know what you need. Well, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked. Before I started out, I was given 3 comfort cards. I had to choose 2 and discard the 3rd. Alright, back to our collecting and making of the comforts. This time I rolled a 1 and a 6. I put my workers out to collect an apple and yarn, which will require 2 dice, a 1 and a 2. Back to the inn and visit with Blue Jay. And we'll go back to the river for a stone and a coin, only this time I only need a 4 instead of a 5. It's always a good idea to count how many dice are going to be needed to fulfill the requirements. Nothing worse than planning your collecting and realizing that you don't have enough dice to complete everything. My last move, I think I'll grab another comfort to make. This spot lets me pick a comfort that is shown in the line. Alright, village dice, what have you got for me now? 2 4s and a 5. Take my 1 and 2 up to the meadow and grab the apples and yarn. My 4 goes to the river for another coin and stone. 6 to the inn for a story for 1 coin, and 5 to the owl's nest for a new comfort to make, And that's it. I don't need the other 4. And I'll grab my goods and my workers and bring them back along with the dice that were used. I was able to choose the comfort from the line that I had the resources to build. Which in this case was 3 apples to make preserves. Yay, the creatures will have some food for the winter. This visitor has a special end-of-the-month action that allows me to complete a location action in the valley, which is the meadow or forest cards at the top, using only the village dice as if I had one of my workers up there. Whoops, I actually made a mistake. I accidentally took an action from the inn and not the valley. I guess that poison got to me a little bit more than I thought. Now I'll move to the next month by flipping the meadow and forest cards, which reveal that summer is now here. We better hurry if we're going to make enough comforts to last us through the winter. We said goodbye to Blue Jay and hello to Black Bear. He will give us apples on the meadow and forest locations for the entire month. And what will my family dice give me this time? Oh, it's 2 5s. My first worker will go to the inn. My second worker will go for wheat, apple, and yarn. But for me to get that, I'll need any 2 dice that add up to 10 or more. I'm finally going to go to the workshop for some improvements. And then my last worker will go to the owl's nest to grab another comfort from the face-up pile to make. Alright, village dice. 2 4s, a 5, and a 6. Not bad. Let's see what I can do. I'm going to use one of my lessons learned to change the 4 into a 3, since I have it on the minus side. I'll put the 5 on the workshop, which means that I can choose any improvement up to the 5 spot. And the 6 and the 4 equaling 10 for the wheat, apple, and yarn, and lastly a 5 on the owl's nest for a new comfort. I'll grab my wheat, my apple, and my yarn from Meadow, and I'll bring the dice back, and I'll bring my worker back home, and then I'll go to the inn, where I can take 1 apple and exchange it for another good. And since there is a question mark there, that means that I can use that action multiple times. Since the creatures told me that I can only choose an improvement in a spot up to the value of my die that I place there, which in this case is a 5, I'm going to choose the umbrella. The umbrella allows me once each turn to add a 1 or 2 to one of my family dice, which is the colored ones. Once I bring the improvement back, I'll put a cottage on it. I'm only allowed 4 improvements per year. For my new comfort, I think I'll take the skates. Then I'll take my die and my worker back, and then I'll move all of the comforts down and add a new one. That's it, and now it's time to refresh. Bye-bye, Mr. Black Bear. Come back and visit anytime. Even if we took any improvements or comforts and moved them down, you still have to discard the first one and move the remaining ones down. Hello, Pine Harlan. Unfortunately, for the Pine Harlan's ability, I can't send any workers up to the forest. But I can use a die there, as if there was a worker there. Woohoo! If I have enough dice, that gives me an extra worker. And it's a 6 and a 4 for the family dice again. So I'll put one of my workers there at the inn. That must be a great inn. My workers are constantly going there. And we'll head back to the river for more stone and a coin. I think I'll go back to the market for sure this time. Then I'll go to the owl's nest and choose either 1 or 2 face-down cards from the deck, depending on the value of the die that's placed there. Give me something good, village dice. 2 2s, a 3, and a 4. Alright, what can we do? Alright, we'll put, looks like, we'll do the 4 at the end. And then we can take the 2 to the river. And then where are we going next? I'll put a 2, 4, and 6 in the forest, since the 3 dice needed also had to be all even, and then a 3 in the market. So, because of my visitor's ability, I didn't have to put a worker up in the forest. I just had to put the dice there. I'll take my goods from the forest, which is a wood, 2 apples, and a coin. And then I'll take my coin and my stone from the river. And then I'll head to the inn, where I can turn my lesson learned in for a coin. Since there's a 3 on the arrow, that means I'm allowed to do it up to 3 times. I didn't have any dice left, so I couldn't get any new comforts. But that's okay, because I can go to the market, and I can turn in 2 apples to get 1 yarn. By exchanging the 2 apples to get the yarn at the market, that allowed me to make the ice skates, which needed 2 coins and a yarn, and a board game, which needed a coin, a story, and any 2 goods, and a pantry, which required a wood, wheat, mushrooms, and apple. Time to refresh again. It's fall already? Where did the summer go? That was way too fast, just like back home. I really miss back home. Hopefully I'll be back there soon. Our next traveler to the inn is the pleated woodpecker. His special power is all improvements and comforts cost 1 less wood all month long. So let's get fall started by rolling the family dice. And it's a 5 and a 3. My first worker will be heading to the owl's nest for either 1 or 2 face-down comforts. Worker number 2 will be heading up to the meadow for 2 wheat and 2 apples. And worker number 3 is going to the inn. Don't forget to count how many dice you're gonna need. I always forget to do that. Lastly, worker number 4 is going up to the forest for a wood and an apple. 5541, huh? Alright. I got the 4 and the 3, which equals 7 for the meadow, and 1 for the 2 comfort cards. I'll use the minus side of my lesson learned to bring my 5 to a 4 at the inn. And then I can use the umbrella to change my family die to a 6 for 1 wood and 1 apple. I'll go ahead and grab my goods, which is a wood, an apple, 2 wheat, and 2 more apples, and my dice, and bring them back. Then I'll head on down to the owl's nest and pick up my 2 comfort cards. So hopefully I get something good that I need. My last worker at the inn will turn in 1 yarn for 2 mushrooms. Refresh! This is our last month before winter. I hope we made enough. Why, hello, Mr. Leopard Frog. Welcome to this wonderful little town. Mr. Leopard Frog has this place 2 learned lessons at the inn for anyone to use until the end of the month. That is so nice of him. Let's roll him up again. And it's a 6 and a 1. We're gonna head down to the river. I'm looking for 2 rocks and a rock and a coin. Alright, let's see what improvements we can do. I think we're gonna turn some mushrooms into some goods that I may need. Luckily, I can do that as many times as I have mushrooms. I rolled 2 5s, a 3, and a 1 on the village dice. Alright. I'll use my 1 and my 6 at the river. And my 5 at the improvements. And my other 5 at the inn. I'll grab my 3 stone and my 1 coin here from the river. I'm gonna head over to the inn where I can turn a mushroom into any other good. And in this case, I'm gonna take 2 mushrooms and turn it into 2 wood. I'll just leave the improvements. I think I'm good. I really don't need anything here. I'll put out a hearth, which needs 2 wood and 3 stone. And another board game, using a story, coin, and 2 goods. Oh no! Winter's finally arrived! I hope I helped make enough comforts for the creatures here. Let's total up my score and see how well I helped. I'll just flip my temporary home they gave me for the year to the scorecard. First, we'll add up all the heart values, and then any bonus points at the bottom of the cards. I've got 35 straight heart points. then +2 for the preserves if I have a pantry, which I do. Next, I'll take some of my goods and store them on the cards that give me extra points for that. I only have one set of mushrooms, apples, and wheat, so that gives me another 2 points. I also get 2 extra points per board game for having multiple board games, for a grand total of 41 points. Next, I check my improvements. My umbrella gives me another 3 points. That's a total of 44. I have 1 cottage slot revealed, so that gives me 1 more point. Finally, every 3 resources that are left over will give you a point. Since I have 3 left, I get a point. So I got a grand total of 46 points. Now I get to check and see what my title is. It looks like I tied on what type of comfort I crafted the most of, so I get to choose. You can choose between clothing, food, lighting, or outdoor. So I'm going to choose food. I crafted 6 comforts, so I'm prepared. 1 improvement makes me a critter, and my final score was 46. So I am a deliciously prepared critter of the woods.